Chapter 6. The elevator doors of their penthouse suite closed behind Ren. Instantly he was surrounded by a world of mirrors, and he checked his general appearance. Correcting his tie, he said, "Drone deck." Almost unnoticeable, the elevator moved up. Ren picked a piece of white fluff from the shoulder of his black suit. The cleaners hadn't done a good job. Again. They serviced the entire tower. Half of the 13th floor was dedicated to dry cleaning and laundry. The clothes never left the building, unless worn by their owners. He would file a complaint to the management later. White fluff today, a hair tomorrow. The soft ding announced the arrival, and the doors opened with the sound of a relaxed sigh. 3 drones parked on the deck. 2 were shuttles waiting for the people that ordered them. The BX-3000 was his. It hadn't taken Ren long to figure out the shuttles wouldn't work for him. On some occasions their used condition bothered him. Another time he missed the personalization feature he enjoyed on a daily basis whenever he had the chance. A lack of style and taste could get to him. The BX-3000 Deluxe version offered individualism from voice control to the floor mats. 2 mechanics stopped what they were doing and acknowledged his presence with a short kowtow. "Open," Ren said. The side door swung open and 2 steps appeared. He thought of something and turned around to the workers. "Hey." "Yes, sir?" said the taller man. "Have you seen my wife and my daughter this morning?" "Yes, they took their red-eye shuttle as always, sir." "As always?" "Maybe a little earlier than usual, sir." Just what he had assumed. "Everything okay, sir?" the man asked. Ren ducked and took the 2 steps, turned around and plopped into one of the 4 chairs. While the door closed, he buckled up. The belts were as wide as the shoulder pads in his suite, so they wouldn't cause creases. He hardly felt them. To work. He didn't have to give the entire address each time. Personalization meant verbal shortcuts and safety at the same time. Nobody could steal his drone. It would only listen to his voice. Not even Miremba. Back when she found out, she was not happy about it. Now he felt it had been the right decision. Otherwise, she possibly would have taken the BX this morning. The touchscreen in front of him ran the safety protocol. A barrage of technical terms and numbers scrolling and blinking. But as long as nothing showed up orange or red, it was not of his concern. On the deck, the mechanics huddled behind a service box against the wind his drone caused. The 8 rotor blades sped up, and soon the BX lifted off. Patches of clouds punctuated the blue of the sky above him. Slowly he glided over the parked drones and over the edge of the deck with their penthouse patio underneath. The side streets buzzed with people covering the ground like a carpet. "Message building management." The BX increased its altitude and a female voice said, "Please tell me your message." "Carl, could you have a word with the laundry department? I got the suit bag powdered with some white stuff, cotton or something, doesn't matter. That is absolutely unacceptable. I can't go into any meeting like this, looking tarred and feathered. I don't know what they're doing down there in the basement, but cleaning used to be what it said. Cleaning clothes. You can leave me a short message about the measures taken and consequences implemented. Thanks. End of message." He flew by the enormous construction site the city started last year. 4 blocks were torn down, and the area was busy with cranes, caterpillars, workers, and drones. Henry had told him the city would build a new tower, the highest tower in Alberta. That would make sense with the constant influx of people from the coast and the Midwest. Denver's tiny pink unicorn sticker was still stuck on the smooth, dark green surface of the dashboard. Ren reached out and peeled it off. What had he done wrong to deserve such a behavior? Simply running away with their daughter and not giving him any chance to discuss anything. Several men in her life came to his mind. An affair with her personal trainer, Dajuan? Or was it the instructor from her capoeira class? What was his name? Or somebody closer to them, from Richie's? Or a building employee? She never cheated on him in the past, at least not as far as he knew. But not even having a decent conversation with him before leaving? Another possibility crossed his mind. Maybe she wasn't 100% sure herself, and knew she couldn't follow through with her plan once they started talking and avoided a conversation altogether? But this was nothing he could deal with now, since she denied him to contact her. What he could take care of in the wake of her leaving, and had to, was his assets. To use her family as a safe haven for their money was definitely out of question. "Call Franz," he said. He took the call right away. "Ren, hi, how you doing?" "I'm doing fine, how you doing?" "Good, good." Ren asked, "How's life treating you, since the last time we spoke?" What was about 10 months ago, when we had the sacrifice debriefing. Ren completed it in his head. "Good, thanks for asking, Ren." Surprised about his client's rare abundant interest. Perla and me are just waiting for our brunch at the Diner 88. We married in July." "Oh, yeah, congratulations." Ren kind of remembered him talking about marrying his fiancée during the last sacrifice season. "Thanks, and we went to Banff for our honeymoon." "Wonderful, no refugees there, so I heard." "No, none, an entire week." "Good for you." His drone flew its usual bow around the hospital airspace. Beneath, the streets were clogged with pedestrians, bikers, and vehicles full of people trying to get medical attention. The city planned a third hospital on the west side, but construction wouldn't start before summer next year. "Franz, circumstances demand a meeting of us rather sooner than later." Of course, whatever's convenient for you." "I just wanted to give you the heads up. I don't have my schedule on me right now. I'm flying to my office." No worry." He passed Etienne's, the rotating restaurant perched on top of its one pillar. "But I would appreciate if you could get in touch with my assistant and book a meeting ASAP. That would really be fantastic, okay?" "I certainly will do that." "Great. Is it still Lacey?" "Yes, Lacey." The BX began the landing approach on the empty drone deck of the Wren Tower. "Franz, I have to get ready. Talk to you soon." "Yeah, see you soon." End call. The drone reduced its speed and angled up to land perfectly aligned on the square below them. Through the glass, Wren saw Lacey appearing on the deck, his cheap blazer fluttering in the wind caused by the rotors of the BX. Lacey waved at Wren and squinted against the tiny sand and dust particles peppering him. A depressing sight. As the rotor spun slower, he stepped closer to the drone. Wren unbuckled and said, "Open." He climbed out of the drone into the constant smile of Lacey. A few weeks after he had started his job, Wren had asked him if he had plastic surgery that caused that permanent smile, but he shook his head. "Welcome, sir." "Did you hear from Franz?" "No." Wren walked by him. "He must have contacted you." Lacey followed. "When?" "Last 2 minutes. I was on my way to meet you here." "Excuses." "No, it takes me. You have a lot to learn." Wren stopped in front of the heavy metal door so Lacey could open it for him. As remotely elegant as possible for an untrained butler, he grabbed the handle, swung it open, and stepped aside. "Yes, sir." They entered Lacey's office, and Wren asked, "What are you doing?" "I want to find Franz's message, but an update is running." "Fix me a power shake, cherry banana. Keep it cold. Not too cold. I call you when I want to have it." "Sure, we'll do that." Lacey placed the device on his small desk, scratching his head. "And don't forget Franz. It is important, okay?" No. It's the first thing I'll check." Wren closed the door to his office behind himself and shielded the tiny screen of the oxygen reader against the sun. 23.5%. He smiled and took a deep breath. His 200 square meter office had a constant oxygen level of 23.5%, the maximum amount allowed in a healthy inside environment. Science had proven that the human brain worked better with more oxygen, and Wren didn't want to miss out on any of his mental performance potential. He couldn't afford a bad financial decision due to a lack of oxygen. Once he heard that with dropping oxygen, suicide rates would go up, and he wondered what other brain functions were affected. Addictions? Bad decisions? Not for Wren. Since he spent 10 to 12 hours in his office, he had an oxygen tank installed and a small one in their penthouse too. Lethbridge's natural oxygen level hovered around 18.8%, maybe enough for the commoners. Wren wanted more. With the late morning sun in his face, he stepped over the running track and crossed his office diagonally, marching the 40 meters to his desk. On the left, stretching over the entire length of the golf putting area, a muted financial news anchor discussed recent stock market developments on the movie theater-sized wall screen. That much he got from the captions underneath. He walked around his desk and hung his jacket over the chair. "Call Miranda." It went straight to her voicemail. "And call." She had changed the settings. He cleared his throat. Wren looked around his spacious office as if he'd discovered it for the first time, until he nodded and headed over to the artificial putting green. He rolled up his sleeves and grabbed one of the 9 golf clubs from the stand. The white ball was already waiting for him at the tee placed there earlier today by Lacey. It was one of the 173 tasks he had ordered him to do. Missing one caused a monetary deduction on his performance-based salary. Wren got in position and took a breath. Then he read the green he knew so well and aimed for the yellow flag. The ball swerved twice, as it's supposed to, on the purposely uneven ground, but overshot by more than a meter. Wren dropped the club and looked over to the far side of his office where the weights were lined up. He sat down on the bench and tried the 20-pound dumbbell with the elbow rested on his thigh. Wren counted to 30 and put it down. He shook his head. His eyes fell on the anteroom behind the golf flag, where the shower was situated. The room was equipped with a closet full of exercise outfits, towels, a few suits, shirts, and shoes, in case the weather would change while being at work. He got up and sauntered to the anteroom, where he chose the blue tracksuit with a matching tee underneath and light runners. Dressed accordingly, he wanted to give the multifunctional workout station a try. But after spending time with leg curls, leg presses, lat pull-downs, triceps press-downs, and cable crossovers, he gave up, mumbling, "I don't know." Maybe his body craved cardio. The south-facing rowing machine with a view over Lethbridge and from where he could see in the distance their penthouse on top of the tower was his next choice. Wren barely had started rowing before he lost interest. Nothing seemed to satisfy his needs. There was only one more thing left to do: blowing off steam in the angry dance circle. He took 5 steps away from the rowing machine into the angry dance circle with its dark red soft rubber mat. Wren kicked off his shoes and booted them outside the area that was surrounded by 4 240-watt loudspeakers hung in an angle from the high ceiling, aiming at the middle where he stood. "Play fast Canadian death metal from the 80s, volume on 5 o'clock. A voice counted down from 3 to 0. Then his ears got blasted, and he headbanged, jumped, with his arms flailing, stomping on the ground, kicking around, playing air guitar in the solos, throwing jabs in the air around him, elbowing invisible faces and screaming as loud as he could with the Norwegian singer in the chorus. During moments of angry trance, he either ripped his eyes open wide with everything around him going blurry, or he closed them and let the music guide his erratic movements. It turned out this and nothing else was what his body and mind craved today. He left the walk-in shower with the fogged-up glass divider. The golden faucets from the Victorian era were stylistically necessary to add a moment of clarity into the overall bronze color scheme of the shower room. To this day, Wren heard the words of his interior designer. Generally, he wasn't good at quoting anybody, but that sentence must have struck a chord in him. He toweled himself off, sprayed Clermont Christophe No. 1 in the air, waited until it settled on his body, and threw his favorite white bathrobe over, double tying it with a belt. The soft material hovered on his body like a second layer of skin. The white slippers left no sound while he meandered back to his desk. The entire office seemed to be quieter. It was more like they absorbed existing sound, white noise. "Lacey." "Yes," came out of the station next to the screen on the table. "I'm ready for the shake." He hadn't sat down fully when the door flung open and Lacey hopped over the running track because he didn't wear the right shoes and marched toward Wren holding the cherry banana shake like the Olympic torch before lighting the permanent flame. "Voila," Lacey said as he set the container down on the desk. Wren took a sip through the ridiculous white metal straw. The mix between cherry and banana was perfect. "Just a bit too warm." "Oh, maybe 1 degree. I will try better next time." "It might have been the way here." "What?" "The cooling down." "Maybe." "Anything else?" Wren waited a beat. "What about friends?" "Lacey, I shouldn't have to ask you for this. This should come from you." Yeah, of course, friends. I could speak to him. The earliest he is free is this Friday, 6 p.m. "So, what restaurant do I meet him?" "Restaurant? I didn't know you'd leave the details of the meeting to me." "Lacey, the meeting is 6 p.m. People eat dinner around that time, you know. You could have chosen a restaurant. You know my style. I don't intend to cook for him at home." For sure. You like the Etienne's, right?" "Yes, for example." I go now and arrange a table for 2 at the Etienne's, 6 p.m., the rotation restaurant." "There is no other Etienne's." Wren kept drinking from the straw, and both kept eye contact until he took the straw out of his mouth and said, "Then what are you waiting for?" "I thought you'd empty the shake and I could take the empty." Lacey. I go and reserve the table. I'll be back shortly." "That would be fantastic." Wren watched his assistant half jogging back across the room and jumping over the track at the end. After the door closed, he kept drinking the shake. Today was no in-person meeting planned, so he could wear the bathrobe the entire day, if he wanted to. And at the moment, that was exactly how he felt. The robe was long enough that when he sat down, the fabric served as a seat cover, what was especially pleasant on top of the otherwise cold leather. He had no inclination to change into a suit. For the online conferences, he would use one of the media filters showing him in close-up wearing an expensive suit collar and tie. That would do. On the computer screen, he checked the list of messages, voice and written, over 50 in total since yesterday, sorted by his algorithm accordingly. The first dozen came all from the CEOs of his hedge funds, and each and everyone just wanted to communicate with him, because he was a big boss, because they just wanted to remain a good report with him. As any other day, there was no pressing matter, nothing important to discuss, because he chose the best in their field to do the job. But these geniuses were still insecure little mama boys and daddy girls that needed their daily tender love and care from him. As soon as artificial intelligence could do their job, he would let them go. Usually he chose to respond to one and ignore the rest. Today, he ignored them all. The first fun message came from Henry. They met in boarding school in Prince Albert, and it turned out they were both from Lethbridge. Henry and him shared the same hobby, the love for cross-golfing, and they tried to get together to play around at least once a month. The message was about that, and after replying something like, "Anytime, let me know when you're free," Lacey busted into the office with a 6 p.m. Friday at the Etienne's with friends. "Thanks. Could you please clean up? The shoes, the golf ball, dumbbells, towels, etc., etc." "Sure." Lacey went over to the shoes and picked them up with one hand. With the other hand, he lifted the dumbbells back where they belonged, before he put the golf club back into the rack and the ball back on the tee.